All right, look, so I have a lot of various things going on in life, as I'm sure you all do too, right? But I have multiple jobs, a family, and these big, giant dreams and goals that I am very, well, how do I want to say, relentless in pursuing. So I look at all of these like productivity tips, right? And there's no shortage of them, mind you, right? You go on YouTube, go on the internet, go on anywhere. There is no shortage of productivity tips out there. So I just wanted to basically just drop in here and say, here's the ones that worked the best for me and what keeps me kind of going along. Some of them are a little bit easier than others, and I'm not always 100% on every single one of these tips, but these are the tips and the tactics that I've used to really maintain, at least forward momentum here, right? First one is basically prioritizing your task. And I know that sounds very simple. I kind of take a little bit of a different spin on it, right? So I try to prioritize what needs to be done for the day in a way that lines up with my values, right? So, for instance, there's no shortage of things to do for family, work, business, and other things, right? But ultimately, I put whatever comes through for my family first on that list, right? Knock out the family stuff first, right? Because I value family above a lot of different things, right? And that's not to say like I'm not taking jabs at anybody on anything. I'm just saying this is how I organize it, right? This is how I roll. So I prioritize tasks based on my values, what's important in life overall. So then that's what I'm working on in terms of getting things out there or being productive, right? And another thing I typically do is I set clear goals. Now, here's the funny thing about goals, though, right? And I honestly I just learned this year because I used to set goals and become so locked in on those goals, so beholden to those goals, because that's what everybody tells you to do, right? Like if you want to be successful, you have to be obsessed with that plan A, and you can't think about do anything else, and so on and so forth, and you just become obsessed with achieving this particular thing. And I just learned this year that, and this lesson came kind of hard, right? All right, so earlier this year, I had to go in for wisdom tooth surgery. Now, that's something that you should get or supposedly was supposed to get like earlier on and everything like that. But look, those back teeth were completely laying down. They were sleeping. And in fact, they were pushing up against the front or the back of the tooth that was in front of it in many cases here, right? So, and I was like, okay, now and I get what you're saying. Where am I going with this? Just hang with me. So I got that surgery done, and the recovery process was not fun at all whatsoever, right? It was actually really rough, and I didn't respond well to many of the pain meds, and there were some complications because apparently one tooth was hard to get out, and there were some problems with my jaw, like a whole bunch of mess going on, and I had so many things to do outside, so I allowed like time on my schedule, and I allowed time to recover and all that fun stuff. And and apparently it just wasn't enough time to recover. And I mean, I had a bad time with the anesthesia. I had a bad time with the pain meds after the fact. It was the worst. But I'll never forget, I was sitting there in complete, like total pain, because I couldn't keep taking the pain meds anymore for reasons. I was in complete pain, laying in my bed, bright and sunny day. I hear the boys playing downstairs. And I'm just sitting there just like, okay, when is this going to be over? Because I'm just like, I got this to do. I got that to do. I got that to do. And I just start praying, and I'm praying, and because there's something that didn't feel right within me. Like I felt off, and I'll never forget it. I heard it clear as day. you forgot about me. And from that point on, I just started to reassess everything in life, everything that I was doing, everything that I was going for, everything that I was trying to be. And then what I realized that I realized, excuse me, I realized that all of those goals that I had were goals that I had. All of those things that I wanted to do were things that I wanted to do. And so I noticed that I was saying me, and I never really once asked God if this is His will. Is this in His will for me to operate in this way? Is this in His will to progress and proceed in the aim at this particular goal? So I needed to be slowed down, is the general consensus. And everybody I tell this story to, they get the same idea. Even, you know what's funny? Even the non-believers that I tell this story to, they kind of just say, well, I guess you needed to slow down. Like it is the conclusion that everyone comes to when I tell them this story. And, maybe I did needed to be slowed down, because then I made changes after that. And there's something that I realized about goals. Goals are they're good, but they're not everything. And I know that sounds confusing, because I'm telling you to set goals, right? I'm saying what made me productive, or what makes me productive now, is that I set goals, but I understand that that's just a target and that no outcome is ever guaranteed. So sometimes you have to be aware enough to know when to pivot. You have to be aware enough to know when to let it go. And that's not what they're telling you when it comes to setting goals and going out and accomplishing them and go hard. I don't sleep. Like, that's not what they're telling you. So my advice here, and what works for me, is to set the goal, but just know that that's a target. It is a single target. It is not the only target, and it probably will change, right? That's just the fact of the matter here. Now, I understand the tenacity that's required to achieve certain goals no matter what, and I understand what some people say when you have to be obsessed with achieving these things, but then you become obsessed with achievement, and as a believer, you tend to become so obsessed with achievement that becomes your God. And I think that's what slightly started to happen to me, or what I did, rather. So it's okay to set goals. And in fact, like I'm saying, I'm urging you to set those goals. Just understand how to operate when going to achieve those goals. You will, because you need a target. At the end of the day, you do need a target. And I'm not saying getting a target or setting a goal is bad in and of itself. Just understand what it is. Put the goal in its place, so to speak. Next up, I had to get really good at time management, right? This kind of goes hand in hand with prioritizing goals, but I had to get really good at time management. So what I do is typically, like, I'll set out certain time blocks. So I do time blocking, right? I think there's this other thing, I forgot what it was called, the Pomodoro technique, where it's like 25 minutes of like intense, like, focused work, and then you put in the breaks there. You do stuff like that. But at the end of the day, just, make sure that you manage your time well, right? So you don't want to get so absorbed in something when you have a gazillion other things to do. Especially rather, you don't want to get absorbed in something that's lower on your priority list, and then everything else just, kind of falls apart, right? So, for lack of better terms, beef up your time management skills. Another one is and this is a hard one. This one, I don't do too well at this one, but I try to eliminate distractions. Whenever you're working or doing something, or trying to produce something, right? Like you inevitably there's going to be something that comes up that pulls you from it, right? You try and limit how much that happens, though. But sometimes something that's higher on your priority list comes in, and that becomes the distraction. That almost tells you should have been working on that in the first place, but whatever. Try to eliminate as many of the distractions as possible, so that you can actually get some concentrated, clear thinking work in, and then you go from there. So, and then keep it organized. Make sure, like, I kind of big on organization. I'm semi big on organization, right? Like I tend to like things being kind of jumbled and bunched around at certain times, right? So when I'm thinking more creatively, when I'm trying to produce something that's more on a creative side, I need everything to be a mess. Right? I need everything to be a mess. But if I'm doing strict structured work, or something maybe for the business, to keep the business going, but it's not so much of an idea thinking thing, is more of an admin type style thing, then I need things to be organized, right? So I would say, kind of keep it organized at the proper times, right? Of course, use tools that are at your disposal, like, online tools, actual physical tools like software, programs, whatever. Like, try and automate as much as you possibly can, right? That'll free you up to do like the big valuable work, right? So if there's things that you can use tools to kind of help you get along your way, use them. Trust me. Like, and I mean, I think that's part of the reason why there's such a big hoopla over AI. I mean, yeah, that's part of the reason why. Yeah, because it just increases, or it could, if used properly, it could increase productivity. And I'm not opposed to that at all, because I like the creative work more than I like the actual just admin, just strict structured work. So if there's anything that I can automate on the strict structure side that allows me to be more creative, I'm doing it. Right? So that's just something to keep in mind. Utilize the tools, utilize the software, utilize those different things that'll help you get along your way. I am very, very mindful of making sure I take breaks. Now, here's the thing though. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm good at taking breaks. That doesn't mean I'm good at taking breaks. I'm just mindful of the times that I need to take a break. And I know I need to take a break. I'm still working on the other part there, where it's just like, hey, look, I can recognize it. Like, it's time for a break. It doesn't always work out that I actually end up taking a break, though. That's just the way it happens sometimes. But breaks are important. Breaks are very important. Another thing that you probably will want to, that you could probably take something from, I would always reassess everything. Reassess the resources I have to be productive. Reassess myself. Reassess the environment. Reassess the goals. So you should always reassess, like, on a regular basis. Almost like you should schedule a point in time where you reassess everything, just to make sure that you're still on the same wavelength, and you're still on the right track to achieving a particular goal, or at least aiming in the right direction. So there's always a point where you should reassess where you are, because you could be doing a whole bunch of work that's pointless to getting you to where you want to be. And it still could be good work too. That's the thing. It still could be good work, and it can produce a good result. It just doesn't produce a result that gets you closer to the goal. And so there's always a state where you want to reassess where you are and where you're headed, right? Another little mini tip that I don't know if this falls into any other category though, but it's just like work with yourself, right? Like, not against it. Don't work against yourself here, right? If for instance, like, if you know that you're an early morning person, right? Do the most important things, the things that are absolutely required, early morning, right? You don't want to save all that stuff for like at night if you're not a night person, right? So it's like if you're wide awake midday, wide awake, ready to go, have full energy at noon, then that's when you should do the most important work, because then there's less likely to be mistakes. Oh, of course. I'm gonna end on this one, right? Last tip that I think is absolute. Oh no, wait, not a last tip. I have one more too. Now they're just coming in. So wait, okay. Before I even get to that last tip, try and do something like, I guess what they call is like gamify it. Gamify your production. So when you're setting up the game plan and you're setting up your like to-do list, if you use those, or you're setting up your schedule, if you use those, make it like a rewards-based system almost. Hey, look, I just passed level 1, I knocked this program out. Or I just passed level 1, I did this, right? And then actually have like a reward of some sort on the tail end. You'll be more likely to kind of stay engaged in it, because it's just like, look, I'm for instance, let's just say you wanted to go out golfing at the end of a long work day. The work that you're going to do might be a little bit better knowing that, hey, look, but if I don't do this, if I don't get this done, I can't go golfing. So then I'm just going to, look, let me lock this in. let's start a lot. Or I'm going to hang out with some friends. But if I don't get this project off the ground, I gotta stay here until it's finished. Like things like that, right? Those, doing fun things, like I talked about a couple episodes ago, doing those fun things can be a reward so that you can kind of gamify your production here, right? I find that works a lot for me, right? And I actually gamify it by playing games. So it's just like, okay, look, I'm not going to be able to play any of these video games or anything like that unless I get A, B, C, D done, right? I got to do this for the business. I got to make sure the family's good on this end, and then I got to also make sure that I have everything, all my ducks in a row for the job, for the gig. So it's just like, all right, let me make sure I get all of this done, and then I'm going to play some Sparking Zero at the end. All right, so it's just like that's what it. Believe it or not, that works. I mean, at least it works for me. So I'm just throwing it out there. Now, finally, we'll get to the last tip. The last thing that I do, the last suggestion is probably the biggest one. And it's a three-parter here, right? Exercise, get good sleep, eat well. You knew I was going to say that. Like you come on now. I mean, but it all counts. It all counts. You live a healthy lifestyle. You make that a part of who you are. You will be more productive. It's just you'll think clearer, right? Like we don't have to go over all the benefits of working out. We don't have to go over. I mean, we pretty much have already, but there are a lot of benefits to all of that stuff. Exercise, sleep well. You got to get your recovery. Recovery is important. And eat well. That's it. So those are my tips. That's what I do. That's the way I look at it in terms of trying to stay productive, trying to achieve these goals, or at least aim at these goals and achieve what I can achieve, right? We'll go from there, right? So there you have it. Hopefully there's something in there that can help you out. Let me know if it does. All right. So if you like this segment, here's another one for you. Click over here. And if you want the entire podcast, go this way. Click on that one right there. And once again, I appreciate you. All right, you take it easy.